Hi, this is Matt Hugg with Nonprofit.Courses, and I'm pleased to bring you part three of a four-part series on what it's like to be a funder. We have a special guest throughout this series, Lorrie Hartley, Executive Director of the TKD Foundation of Missouri. So let's get started. I have Lorrie Hartley here from the TKD Foundation. She's smiling because I'm gonna mess that up sometime. Right. And we're having fun here talking about her point of view as a funder in the grant proposal process. And in all seriousness, I think she's really been generous with her thoughts on this, and it's really been helpful. And like I said in the first video, I forget what I said in the second video, this isn't an invitation to hit her with applications. It's she's really just being helpful to give us an insight. And Lorrie has some really good perspective because she's been on both sides of the fence as a funder and then as a fund recipient in a nonprofit organization. She has a CFRE, so she's really a top-notch fundraiser as well. We talked, I think one of the other two videos, you mentioned what I think of as the R word, relationships. And, you know, where does relationships fit into this process? Because you also said that it's about process. So do those two get in the way of each other?
No, because process for us, since we work on a closed application process, the process, everyone's been vetted out. Every organization we visit has been vetted out. However, the relationship starts the minute that we pick up the phone to call you and ask if we can visit with you.
Oh.
And just hear what you're doing. Okay. And ask the questions. How's it going? What challenges are you working on? What's it look like? And that's when the relationship really, that's when it starts.
Now, obviously up to a few months ago, you do that in person. I imagine you do that through video calls now or whatever.
That's correct. So our mid-grant reporting, that was done through Zoom. And then also our end of year was through Zoom.
Do all successful relationships end in funding?
No, they don't.
Okay.
Not always.
So what defines success then?
Success is when you have good communication, and it's open communication. There's ebb and flow.
Okay.
You talk about challenges, you talk about what's working well, and more importantly, you talk about maybe some changes that are coming up. Because again, we want to be apprised, not surprised. And we're very flexible with that. We want to know, we understand business, and we understand that you can get halfway through a project and things take a turn. You know, for example, we funded a program training position. It turned out that the lady halfway through, she was diagnosed with brain cancer.
Oh.
But the executive director called and shared that. And during the time she was there, she already created the training modules, and they were able to take that and use that funding to convert to online training.
Okay. Wow.
Which is a huge success because they actually did that in December before COVID-19. And that has, that forward thinking, they were already prepared to do everything online, unbeknownst to what was going to happen.
Yeah, they were just watching the newspapers for any hints of anything going along.
Right?
But no, that's great. That's so a good relationship then obviously goes over bumps. You talked about site visits, and people can be really weird about foundation site visits. I mean, when you show up, right, all the rails are scrubbed, all the windows are clean, you know, everything's all bright and shiny. You know, the grass is cut. I imagine you realize that. How do you put people at ease? I mean, how does that work? Do you ever
let them know? Yeah, no, we would never just show up at a nonprofit. That's disrespectful. Just we would like the same respect that you make an appointment with us instead of just show up. But when we're there, we're not there to audit them. We're there to visit them. And I understand, coming from the other side of nonprofits, working with your state and federal grants, you get audits. And that's different from a funder site visit. We're really there to just see about the partnership and how things have been going. And it's really, we want that conversation. We want the discussion. We're not looking for a dog and pony show.
Have you run into situations where staff or even volunteers are guarded about responses, or you feel like you're being guided one way or another?
Actually, no, I think we've really done a good job up front. And I really think when we first started grant funding, we brought all the grantees together. And so they really got to see the heart of who we are. And we really mean what we say, that it's a relationship. We want open, honest communication. We want that ebb and flow. We don't expect everything to just go in order as presented in the grant, because that's not reality of a nonprofit organization, or any organization for that matter.
Sure. Wow. Okay, good. That's really good. And I think it's important that one of the things I talk about in my classes and you're obviously reflecting this, is that you're people.
We are people. And we're people. Philanthropy means for the love of mankind. And the whole heart of the funders is to help humankind go forward. And we love to do that through nonprofit organizations.
Yeah. I mean, so you're people, not an institution.
That's correct.
You're not the foundation coming, you're Laurie coming.
Exactly. And we want you to share what's going on. And is there a chance that we can help do something else? Do you need something? Are you in dire straits? Is there an emergency? COVID-19, that was a great example for two of our grantees. They reached out and we provided emergency funding for them.
Wow. Okay. That's great.
And the good thing about a private family foundation, they requested, we were able to do that within 4 hours from start to finish. So we can expedite the process very quickly. Right.
And we're, obviously they were in a tough spot that way. Did they have to really prove to you that this was an issue? Or, I mean, were you looking for okay, so show me your budget and where you plan to be and where you are, or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely not. We knew. They said, I got a text from one of the executive directors saying, can you have a phone conversation? I talked with him. I met with the president via Zoom. We hopped on there and then just asked him to put a simple project budget together, what was going to happen, how much he needed, what was going to, how many licenses. It was for Google Voice. So, because the volunteers, they work with children and they needed to make sure that they recorded the conversations and any text messages.
Right. Yeah.
And they needed that because they could no longer meet in person.
Yep. Yeah.
So no. And the other was for asthma. And that was very quick too. And that was for schools. It was for the asthma applicator.
Oh.
So kids could,
the inhalers.
The inhalers, thank you, not medical.
Yeah, yeah, right.
But they needed that in several of the rural schools because children that had asthma, they were having trouble using their inhalers correctly. Sure. And that was just, like I said, a matter of 4 hours. Both of those were approved.
Wow. Okay, that's really cool. So you are flexible, obviously, and organizations shouldn't be afraid to have that kind of discussion with you.
No, let us tell you no, especially if we have that relationship. That's why the relationship is so important. It was just a really easy conversation, and we care. We want to help.
Well, and that brings up a point that I've told my staff when I had them years ago. Say, don't say no for somebody.
That is great. That really is, and let them tell you no. And we may not have been able to have the funding, but we did. It was available.
Right. And from our conversations between you and I, it feels to me like if you couldn't have helped them, you could have guided them or at least been an advocate for them, or somebody who could. So
I would be on the phone trying to help them, especially if it's an emergency.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of organizations talk about, well, we want to have a funding match. Is that just mission, or what else goes into making a match with a grantee?
Making a match, that is make sure that the missions align. There's mission alignment.
Right.
Make sure there's inclination. Just because there's a mission alignment doesn't mean that's a priority alignment. Because even, for example, we support healthcare, but it is the president's personal mission to ensure every child in the state of Missouri has access to healthcare.
Oh, wow.
And that's our priority. So outside of that, even though you may work for healthcare and it may fall within our mission, that's not our priority for the year.
Gotcha. Okay. And then how about interpersonal dynamics? Does that make a difference?
It is good to be able to communicate and be thoughtful and mindful. Make sure to follow the process, honor the process. Honor, if we request email or call the office, don't try to circumvent and go around us to go to the founders, because again, we're gatekeepers. We're there for a reason, and we're there because they put us there and ask us to be there. And we really want to help you.
Right, right. And being grumpy to you isn't necessarily making that happen.
It is not. And if I appear grumpy, it is for protection, because there's legalities, there's laws that we have to follow too. And there's always donor intent and honoring what the founders want.
Right. Yeah.
And working for them, I understand them personally and their personal philanthropic values better than you as a grant seeker would.
Yes. Even if somebody was a buddy of one of your benefactors from years gone by.
Lots of buddies. We have lots of buddies.
I'm sure. What was the biggest mistake you've seen an applicant make in approaching you? Even that met the mission, they were good on mission, they were good on other things but that was bad.
So I've got two. I'm trying to figure out what the biggest one was.
Well, I was going to ask you what the second one was too. So
okay,
take your pick.
So we chose in 2019. That was our first funding cycle that we vetted out 9 organizations, and 9 were invited to apply. And the one that we invited, we let her know, she was the CEO of a community health center, that the amount that she could, we let her know how much she could apply for. And the deadline kept approaching, getting closer. And so we reached out to her and asked if she was going to apply. She said, no, I have bigger fish to fry. There's a bigger grant that I can apply for, and I just don't have the time.
Okay.
So that relationship is no longer fruitful.
Yeah, viable maybe. Right.
Yeah, right. But what grantees need to understand, or potential grantees, is that they're going to have to, if the relationship's new, they're going to have to do 10,000 before they get 50,000, 50,000 before 100,000. And it's building that. And, it's kind of like dating. You date somebody, and then if it works out, then you get engaged, and then you get married. It's the same type of relationship that has to progress. And basically, she didn't want to go on a date with us.
That's great. Well, I can see that. I mean, really, that makes a big difference, especially, I mean, honestly, honesty is important, but it's like, what you say versus how you say it.
Yeah. Even saying, could the dates be flexible by a week to 10 days? Because I have other priorities that have that are in play.
Yeah, right.
What's interesting about the rest of the story is
remembering Paul Harvey. Yes.
Yes, honoring him. She didn't receive that funding either.
I was, it's funny. I was wondering about that. Wow. Yeah. That's just bad decision.
That's just serendipity right there.
Yeah. Rare karma.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, so what's the other story?
So the other one is, there was a shelter for battered women and children, and the executive director come in and they wanted a new playground. So we went and took a look at the facility, and we're like, yeah, this is something we could support. So she come in, and we told her how much she had to work with, fill out the grant. Everything was filled out, top to bottom. She resigned. probably a week before the grant was to be finalized.
Oh.
Yep, the new executive director comes in. All she literally has to do is sign it. That's it.
Hit
Sign
the
it.
submit button, done.
And she did not sign it and submit it.
Wow, that's too bad. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And it's not like the deadline's missed and there was no communication.
Well, and you know, for me, I see it's too bad, yes, for the organization, but really for the kids.
It is too bad for the kids.
Yeah, who really, they deserve that playground.
They do. And we had reached out to her so many times. All you got to do is submit. Do you need help?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
no.
do you find, I mean, so one of the things that hits my head with that is, was there an ego issue? Was it, well, that's the past person, I want to do my own thing now, so.
Absolutely. She said that the playground equipment was adequate. And for me, I used to work for a shelter for battered women and children.
Right.
And I'm not into adequate or mediocrity. So that hit a big red button with me.
Wow. Yeah.
Adequate. Well, let's go above and beyond.
And it wasn't like you were going to fund anything else in the organization.
No, that was it.
Right. So take the money and go and do the thing, make it better.
And have a new playground.
Right. It wasn't taken from them. Wow. Okay. Yeah. All right. What are the best ways for for grantees to communicate with you?
We are open to email, texting, call, but just make sure it's the staff that you're contacting and
Right.
not the founders.
Okay. And do you find when you talk to other foundation folks that that's the same with them, or are they more restrictive? Or, I mean, I was going to say less, less restrictive, but it sounds like you're about as open as you can be. So
a lot of them have more of a, depending on the size of the foundation, because there could be a program manager just assigned to your organization,
right,
depending on the size. But for the most part, if they're your partner, your family foundations, they're looking for partnerships. They're not looking for a one and done. This is their private family philanthropy.
right.
And we're in the first generation of the TKD Foundation, but when you get generation G2, G3s, there's a lot of family dynamics that are a little different there as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I've seen that, and I'm sure you have.
Yes.
That makes a big difference. Have you ever given money to an organization with which you have no relationship?
Well, since we're a startup foundation, we really didn't have a relationship with any of the grantees that were chosen, but it was through another foundation how we got connected with one of our major grantees. It was through a recommendation. They knew of a great program. They just didn't have the funding. That wasn't their priority at the time. They asked us, and now we have a great relationship with them.
Okay. Wow, that's cool. But you, whether you just started or now they're established, these relationships though, but nobody just kind of shows up to your door and you say, oh, that's great, here's the money, and you don't have any, because it sounds, I mean, you obviously do the background and all that and learn about them.
We have a lot of people show up to our door unannounced. We do, but no, they just don't get money for that.
Right.
And as again, you have to honor the process. And if you have a question, first go to our website. Everything is on there. It's listed on there.
Yep.
And then make sure not to circumvent that. And if you have a offline question, you can connect with me on LinkedIn.
Right.
And to start that relationship. And that's just, hey, do you have an opportunity to network and connect? I'd love to just get to know your background, show some care. And
in your case, everybody has a relationship with you in terms of with the organization. But you mentioned to me in other times, folks might just show up, right? I don't imagine that I mean, relationship makes a huge difference, correct?
Relationship does make a huge difference. We're a small community, and because they know the founders,
Mm,
we have a lot of people that will drop by the office and come in and share their idea for funding and why they should be funded.
okay.
And it would be nice to make an appointment. that would be, because we have a standard, office number. It's important to call and make that, because you're just assuming that we have time to meet with you.
Yeah.
We had somebody stop by when it was a board meeting, and then we're rushing around to try to, get them out of the building. And if they would call, we would certainly make time to speak with you, and we'll explain the process to you and explain that we have a closed application process. But we'd be happy to take their information, and we will save it, because we do. It's not because we want to respect everybody that's coming in, because everyone's doing good works.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about you having in another video about having a grant management system. And so, you keep track of things like that. So you don't just, there's not just the sack of money in the back that you're grabbing and saying, great idea, here.
That's a good point. The sack of money is great, but just as a nonprofit organization has their budget, we have a budget too. We already know how much money that we're going to distribute by the time January 1 of each year comes around.
January 1, say, is your fiscal year turn, right?
Correct.
Are all the decisions made by January 2? In other words, if somebody comes to you in March, are they basically saying, you got to wait till next January?
In this instance, yes, we already know who we're going to fund. Because we're a closed application process, everybody wouldn't be that way. Other foundations, but we already know. We have a couple with multi-year grants, grant funding, and so the funds are already allocated. And because we have relationships, we want to continue our partnership and grow them.
Right. And so what this comes down to is that organizations need the plan.
They do need a plan.
Yeah. They need the plan on, even if they come up with this brilliant idea in March, that they have to build that relationship. They have to work with you so that even any kind of consideration would occur later on.
That is correct. So we're already if we're going to look for a new organization for next year, we're going to visit, and all of those visits will be done by October. Because we meet quarterly at our board meeting. So the first draft of our budget will go in October, and then it's approved by the year end. Right.
All right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And I know that, I'm sure that's helpful to folks, because I hear that some people will tell me, well, we don't want to go to major gift people because it takes too long to build that relationship. But it sounds like it takes a long, it's not like instant relationship with you guys. You're not an ATM.
We're not an ATM, and other foundations and other major gifts, they're not an ATM either. And I bet if I heard somebody say that it takes too long to build a relationship, I could look at their major gift program and there wouldn't be any.
Yep, you're right.
It's all about relationship. It really is. And, it's throwing a ball out. And someone's got to give you $25 before they're going to give you $50, $100. How are you honoring that?
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, hey, this has been great. Why don't we wrap up this particular video, and we'll come back and we'll make our last one about some of the mechanics of a grant proposal. And Laurie, thank you so much. You've been really so generous with your time and your thoughts. And again, I just want to say thank you. I want to say to everybody who's watching, to reiterate, this isn't an invitation to apply to TKD, right? But we really do appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll be back.